Let's work on the main mesh, high poly mesh. If we zoom in a bit closely, we can see all these artifacts, these gray artifacts. This is because of the proxy mesh that is superimposed on this main mesh. Like if we go ahead and hide the proxy mesh, those artifacts go away. But that's not what we want. Instead, we'll make this proxy mesh invisible so that later on while rendering that doesn't bring back those artifacts. Go and select the game mesh and materials tab. We can just delete this default material because we won't be needing that. Delete this default material, add a new material. I prefer to do this than to go having to change properties of an existing material. This is easy to get a default. And never mind the name, we'll be not using it in any case. Turn on shadeless and transparency. Turn on transparency and set alpha all the way to 0. Now our game mesh is just invisible. Okay, in our main mesh we find one problem. The chin portion, it's invisible and we can see what's inside. I don't know why Makeuman made this, but that's not what I want. So what I do is these faces I'll assign the same material as skin. I'll go and select the main mesh, woman mesh, materials, and in list of materials I have this Invisio material. This is what this faces is applied. To select, I'll have to go and tab into edit mode. Pressing tab, I just pressed. Now with this Invisio material selected, I click on select. It selects all those faces with that material. With all those faces selected, I select this skin type and say assign. So the skin type is assigned to all that was earlier assigned as invisible. I select A to deselect all. This looks fine now. While we are here, we'll make one more change. Select the brows material. We don't want brows or eyelashes. The main reason is alpha transparencies work well only if there is another face behind it with skin color, so that when this surface is transparent, the one behind it shows through. Though that is present, it's that way in the main mesh. Our game proxy doesn't have that. We'll just delete the eyebrows and eyelashes. We can recreate it later if we want. So with brows and select, let's go and see that there our eyebrow and eyelashes are selected. We can just delete it. Here X and delete faces. This is fine. Tab back into object mode. This looks much better. At least it's better to be baked. Now we shall work on our clothes. We can use these default clothes to model our own. For this tutorial we won't be making much changes, but we do want to fix some of them. For example, it won't do with these breasts peeking out unless we are modeling for a pone, which we are not doing in any case. So let's start changing our clothes, or rather fix our clothes. First, let's go to jeans mesh. This default material color is fine, or we can change whatever we want. Let's go and see what are the modifiers there. We have armature modifier, we have the subsurf modifier, and the shrink wrap modifier. Armature modifier, let it be there. Subsurf, I'll just add subdivision view one more so that I can see better. And the shrink wrap modifier, and that's fine, but let's change the offset to say 0.1 so that it's not tight fitting on the skin. Let me be there. That's all. I don't have any much more work to do in the jeans. Now let's work on the sweater. Let's select sweater mesh and modifiers, armature modifier, let it be fine. Subsurf modifier, I'll just increase one view. I'll go ahead and add a shrink wrap modifier, and my target is the woman mesh. Oh, okay, keep it above surface, fine. And offsets, let's make it say 0.11. This is fine. Maybe we should try to edit this clothes just for the fun of it. Tab into edit mode, deselect all. With alt right click, I loop select, deselect all. In face select mode, alt right click and I select these faces. Shift alt right click and select other faces and some more. Delete them. This is nice. Similarly, on the hand also, I think I can delete some. Alt right click, again shift alt right click, shift alt right click and shift alt right click. Just delete them all. Okay, this should do. And color doesn't look good here too. Again alt right click, delete with and faces. This should do. Okay, now we have our cloths designed, tailored for us, and it fits on our model. We are ready to take this textures and normal and put it onto our game mesh. Let's now select our game mesh, split the window in two by clicking and dragging, and make one of these windows as UV image editor. With Ascot mesh, or our either game mesh selected, tab into edit mode. There, it's unwrapped nicely. The good guys at Makeuman already did our work. We don't have to do a specific UV unwrap. So we just go ahead and create a new image. 1024 into 1024 is fine, and let's name it normal, because this will contain our normal map, our normal bake. Zoom it out and okay, fine. Let's go ahead and create one more image right away. Image, new image, and let this be say texture. And okay, this is our texture. Okay, so we are ready. Select the jeans mesh, the sweater mesh, the woman mesh, and our game mesh. It can be in any order, but our game mesh should be the last so that it stays active. Just to make sure it is active, just tab into edit mode and write this UV map, whatever is coming up, belongs to my active object. So this is fine now. With this, and I make sure my texture image is selected here. It's already there. Okay. Now it's time to bake. Go to the render tool tab. Scroll down. Bake is towards the last. Just make sure selected to active is checked on, because we want to bake onto this image. And instead of full render, we'll just bake the textures and we'll try baking. Good. Not so good, not what we actually expected. Instead of baking the textures from the clothes, it baked the textures from the underlying main mesh. That's not what we want, and that's because of this bias. With bias 0, it tends to take the surface closest to our target. So we'll just go ahead and make this say 10, and we'll bake again. Make sure clear is on so that it deletes before it bakes again, and bake. This is more like it. Just go ahead and save the image. Save as image. I'll save it on my desktop because I'm totally disorganized. Texture.png is fine. Save as image.